Today we want to talk about the Philips 5400 series Lattego all-in-one bean-to-cup super automatic coffee machine. We're going to just review the unit today, kind of off the cuff. I will mention my pros and cons as I'm testing the unit. Just so you know where I'm coming from, I have used DeLonghi bean-to-cup machines at work the last several years, so I'm quite accustomed to those. I have also tasted Jura numerous times as well. But let's have a look at the machine. The Philips has got quite a nice design to it. I do kind of prefer the design over the DeLonghi. Kind of nice curved edges. It's got some chrome trimming, a metal drip tray on top, which is kind of nice. And the thing I like the most about the Philips is that they include a light. So you can turn the light on during the extraction, or you can turn it on in general. So let's just go ahead and turn that on right now. Let's take a look into the settings menu. As you can see here, you've got different profiles. You got the blue, the green, the pink, the yellow, and finally a guest profile. And underneath these profiles, you can save settings for your drinks. Now on the top menu, you've got espresso, coffee, Americano, cappuccino, latte macchiato, caffe au lait, and even more drinks. Coffee crema, latte, milk froth, travel mug, lungo, and Ristretto. Now when you're setting up a drink, what you can do is choose how strong you want it to be. So anywhere from the middle amount, which is right around 8 seconds of grinding. You can go down 2 steps from there. You can also go up 2 steps. And finally, you can do an extra shot. This will grind and do an entire extra shot. Then you choose the amount of water that you want to run through. So in this case, you got the recipe of 40 milliliters. That's what should come out. And then finally, you can double the recipe. As far as the settings are concerned, you can set the water hardness. This is important for your descaling reminder. And then you've got your standby time, 15, 30, 60, 180 minutes. Then you've got the screen brightness. You can choose your language, whether or not you want the beeps. Then you've got the temperature. I always set it on high. Product counter. That's kind of interesting to see what you've all made already. So a whole bunch of coffee cremas. And then the front illumination is also something cool. You can choose if you want it to be on just during brewing or if you want it to be always on. You've also got cleaning settings to do a quick rinse of your milk group. You can do a brew group clean, which is where you're supposed to put in the tablets. Then you can do a descaling where you get a wizard to go through the descaling. And then finally an aqua clean. This is to change the filter. Let's take the Lattego off for just a minute. We'll come back to the milk-based drinks a little bit later. What I want to do first is actually see how is the espresso drink, because that's pretty much how everything else is based off of. What I'm going to do is measure out an espresso dose and see what we get. Just so you know, you can adjust the grind time to be anywhere between low, medium, and high, and I've measured it out to be between 7 and 9 seconds. So keep that in mind. You can increase the dose a little bit. Also, there is in the bean hopper an adjustment here for the fineness of the grind, anywhere between 2 and 12, with 2 being the finest. What I find is that for me, it hasn't made a humongous difference whether I've been on 2 or 12 or in the middle. I think there's not a whole lot of range there. That's just my experience so far. So I put it back in the middle because that's where Philips recommends to put it. And let's just go ahead and make an espresso. First of all, as you'll see, by the way, if you don't have enough water in there, it's going to tell you to put water in. And same thing, it will give you a message if you don't have everything engaged how it should be engaged. So let's put that back in. And let's go ahead and measure ourselves out an espresso. One word on espresso real quick. Normally espresso is made with a 2-to-1 ratio, which means if you put in 15 grams of espresso, then you are looking to get 30 grams out. That's the 2-to-1. And where I kind of see every bean to cup machine delivering something that's not quite an espresso, but rather maybe a lungo, is that they don't give you that ratio. You're looking at more like a 4-to-1 ratio, and also at a lower pressure, because these grinders, they just don't grind as fine as what you normally would grind for an espresso. But let's take a look and see. Unfortunately, I couldn't measure out. I don't know exactly how big the dose is, but I'm guessing it's right around 10 grams. You can choose, by the way, to increase the bean dose. So if you go all the way up to the top, that's an extra shot. We don't want that. We're gonna go down to the top which is the most amount. That's about 9 seconds that it grinds. And then you can choose 40 milliliters, 30 milliliters. The default is 40, so let's do 40. Then you can also choose if you want to double that recipe here. This is basically doubling it. No, we don't want to do that. So we're just going to keep it like that. And then we just press the play button and see what we get. So that's our pre-infusion right there. All right, so we ended up getting 46 grams out. That's actually probably closer to a 4.5 to 1 ratio. I might try to actually aim for 30 milliliters next time. You do have a little bit of crema on there, but you can tell that it's a little bit, it's almost see-through. So I find that the espresso that comes out of these machines is a little watery. The taste isn't bad because I'm using good beans. I'm using these Samoka beans right here. These are fair trade, pretty freshly roasted. So the combination of using the hot setting here and using freshly roasted good beans is going to give you a decent shot, but you just can't expect the mouthfeel that you would get, the texture that you get from a real espresso. Let's go ahead and make a coffee crema because it's also a very popular drink. I found with this machine that coffee crema and plain coffee, it's the same thing. I don't notice any difference at all there. And I'm really not sure if there's any pressurized system in here at all to kind of like air up or froth out the coffee crema. It seems to me to just be kind of like a straight extraction. So let's make ourselves a coffee crema. We have to go into the special menu. More drinks, coffee crema is the first one. Okay, let's increase our dose. And then we're going to choose our milliliters. It's set for 140, that is fine. And we could double it if we had a travel mug or something, then we could do that. But 140 milliliters is fine. That's all that's going to fit in this cup. So let's go ahead and hit play. All right, there we go, 148 grams. So what does kind of impress me about this machine is how accurate it is at dosing out the coffee or dosing out the espresso. It's nearly right on. Oh, that's pretty good actually. The coffee crema, it's got some sweetness to it for sure. In this bag, I'm supposed to taste, let's see here, chocolate and red apple. I do almost taste something that's a little bit like strawberry actually. So the flavor, very nice. Actually, I'm impressed. With good beans, this machine can make a very nice coffee crema. One thing that I will say is you can't really expect like the texture of crema on top, like what you might expect from a Jura or from a DeLonghi. So keep that in mind. Next, let's do an Americano because that's a drink that people really like as well. Of course, the advantage with these machines is it's easy to use. You can give it to your mother-in-law, you can give it to a grandpa, or people who don't know much about coffee and just say press the button, put good beans in, and you will get a pretty decent result. So let's see, Americano is here. Again, I'm going to increase the dose, 120 milliliters, increase that a little. All right, let's go ahead and make that. All right, so that's the espresso shot at about 45 milliliters. And now there's gonna be hot water coming through. Oh, there it comes. That one does not seem to be as accurate. I only got 110 milliliters out of that Americano, although I set it higher. So we've got an espresso, coffee crema, and Americano. And how does it taste? That's pretty nice too. Of course, the difference between an Americano and a coffee crema is that you do an espresso shot with the Americano and then hot water comes on top. Whereas the coffee crema, water is running through the brew group the whole time to fill up the cup. But honestly, I have to say, of these two, I do prefer the coffee crema. It's definitely sweeter. One more drink that I'll show you that is not milk-based, let's try a Ristretto. Ristretto, excellent. Increase the setting. Let's see what we get from a Ristretto. So there we get 35 grams instead of like the 45 we were getting with the espresso. A Ristretto is a smaller version, a more stout version of an espresso. And there you can see that actually looks pretty creamy. It looks a little better than our espresso looked. That's actually pretty good. That Ristretto is, to me, closer to an espresso than the espresso was because the ratio is more stout. Okay. But as Philips calls it, Ristretto, Espresso, Caffe Crema, and Americano. In the next part of the video, we're gonna go over the milk-based drinks. If you guys are getting any value from this video at all, please go ahead and give the video a like, push it up to more people. And if you'd like to see more reviews on machines like this one and others, consider subscribing to the channel. Let's move on to the milk drinks. So something I love to drink all the time is a Latte Macchiato. So this right here, this is the milk container for the Lattego system of the Philips. And what I like a lot about it is it's just got a lid and then it's got two other parts. The container itself and the holder. Quite a handy system to use. You just have to make sure that it's put together properly. You have to hook the container itself into the holder and make sure it snaps just like that. And then this is pretty ingenuitive. It just kind of hooks on right there like that. Hook it on just like that. Boom. Let's go ahead and fill it up with milk. And now we can go ahead and make our latte. So I'm going to choose Latte Macchiato. I'm gonna increase the bean amount. Let's reduce it to a Ristretto. And 200 milliliters. I believe that is the final drink. Start. It's kind of interesting that it grinds first before doing the milk. Milk comes next, and then later comes the espresso. Okay, so I did get 110 grams, which should be about 110 milliliters of milk. And here comes our Ristretto. Okay, so final volume is at 140 milliliters. So the milk foam itself, it is a bit porous. It is not really fine. It's more kind of like, you know, when you get egg whites and you beat them until they become stiff. That's kind of more like what the foam is. Well, it's not bad. I don't think you're going to get a real microfoam from any of these bean to cup machines like you will from an espresso machine, but it's okay. And the taste, pretty good. I would recommend definitely choosing the smaller amount, the 30 milliliters, so that you still have enough intensity from the shot to pierce through the taste of the milk. It's a pretty decent Latte Macchiato for what it is. Let's move on to a cappuccino. Still have enough milk in there, so let's just do the cappuccino now. Cappuccino, 40 milliliters. Let's move that down to 30. 120 milliliters. Let's move that up to 150 milliliters and let's start a drink. Okay, so there we got 81 milliliters. And here comes our espresso. And after the espresso, we're at 115 grams, so we got about 35 grams of espresso out. And how's the taste of the cappuccino? Again, the milk foam is definitely too like foamy, big bubbles for my taste. I certainly would like to have a nicer microphone, but I know that with these automated systems, that's hard to get. Decent cappuccino. The texture, because of the bubbles, is a bit lacking. And in this case, I would say that the espresso is just a little bitter. Maybe it ran just slightly too long. You really kind of want to keep that compact, right around 30 milliliters of espresso, and then you'll be good to go. That's the Latte Macchiato, and that is the cappuccino. So I would say, so far on this machine, my favorite drinks are the Caffe Crema, the Ristretto, and I would say that the Latte Macchiato is pretty decent. I would probably double that one. You can double it. That is the third setting that you choose. Just double it on there, and then you can get a larger Latte Macchiato. What else you can always do is you can double up the shot. If you bring up the setting on the espresso all the way up to the top and then one more, it will say extra shot. So whenever you choose that extra shot, it's going to do the drink, whatever kind of drink it is, and at the end, it will grind again and it will put a second shot on top of that first drink. It's kind of a nice feature. Let's do one more thing before we do anything else. Let's clean out this milk container. So you want to clean it out every time that you use it because it can get grody otherwise. So what I like to do is just dump the rest in and then ideally rinse it out under the sink. And then finally use the cleaning function because there's a little canal that goes throughout this milk container, and that's where the steam goes up to create the milk foam. We gotta clean that little canal out. Let's choose clean. We're gonna do a quick rinse. Would you like to start the milk system cleaning? Heck yeah. Press start. And then we're good to go. Make sure that it's nice and dry. Anything that you got milk on, you wanna make sure it's nice and clean and then nice and dry so no bacteria, no mold can build up. And that's the nice thing about this one, easy to take apart and easy to clean. All right, let's go ahead now and demonstrate the double shot feature on this machine. We're going to do an Americano double shot, and what you're gonna see is that it pulls a shot, then it will do the water and put another shot on top. Or does it do 2 shots and then the water? Let's see. Americano, all the way up to extra shot. Very nice. 120 milliliters. Let's start. And water. Now I have to say that is one thing that's kind of annoying about this machine. It tells you to add water when you still have, a good amount in there. When this filter is still about halfway covered, it's going to tell you to add water. Press play to resume. Excellent. And by the way, 80 grams exactly. Perfect double shot. And there we got our double shot Americano, 163 grams. Pretty good. I will say one thing, at first I couldn't get what I would call decent shots from this machine, but it was at the medium temperature. Once you bump it up to high temperature, that does make a pretty good difference. So I would recommend doing that in any case. You get a nicer extraction, you can get more of the sweetness out of the beans. That is nice. So let's pull a facet with this machine, and then I want to show you one last thing that I would recommend not doing. The Philips Lattego 5400 series is a nice machine, gives you a lot of options up here. You even have more drinks further in the menu. You have different profiles for different people in the household, a guest profile so you can save all your settings, which is all very nice. I love that it's got a light shining down so you can see your shot and what it looks like. In general, if you use good fresh beans, if you use the hot temperature, you can get pretty decent shots. In particular, if you make them a little bit more compact, a little bit more stout, then you get a decent, I would call it an espresso lungo. Milk quality, not so great for me, but again, I'm coming from using espresso machines, and with those you can just make the most delightful milk foam. But for the casual user, for the work setting or for home when you got a bunch of family members, this is very convenient. I understand why these super automatics get so much attention and why they're such big sellers. They make daily life easy. I'm gonna show you the one last thing that I would like for you to consider and to not do. And that is this little flap up here. In this little flap, you can put more finely roasted, or let's say decaf beans down in there. And then what it does is it puts that into the brew group, and then you can extract that way. The problem with putting that stuff in here is that this is also where like some steam emits up out of the machine, and any leftover coffee grounds get to be grody. They look disgusting, and eventually they'll start to mold. So I would definitely recommend not using this part, unfortunately. Let's do one last thing and just take a look at the brew group one time real quick. With a little pull and wiggle, you can get the brew unit out. That's what it looks like right there. And this brew unit, first of all, catches the coffee grounds in here, flips over like that, gets pushed up against the tamper. That is the position it's in then when you are making coffee. So for anybody curious, let's just see how large that is. That seems to be, oh gosh, it's small. 36 millimeters. This should also be rinsed off from time to time. Yeah, and then you can just put it back in like that. It doesn't actually click, so keep that in mind. Close the door, put the water container back in, and you're good to go. I would recommend regular maintenance for these, cleaning out that brew unit, descaling regularly, and cleaning out the Lattego as well. I hope you liked this video. I hope it gave you some impression of the Philips 5400 series machine and the Lattego milk system, just to give you an idea of how the Philips machines are in general. The cheaper ones, they don't all include like all of these buttons here, but it's going to be the exact same brew group, so you can expect very similar results in the cup. You just may not have all the options automated. And the other thing is that you should know is that these machines you can buy either with or without the Lattego system. So keep that in mind as well. If you want the milk drinks, you gotta buy the Lattego system. All right guys, I hope that you liked this video. Hope it was helpful for you. And if so, give it a like, check out my other videos. If you like what you see, subscribe to the channel, it's totally free. Until next time, I say happy coffee drinking and happy Americano drinking. Bye now.